Hi everyone, it's Tom. When I did my last video for Scarlett O'Hara, I started thinking about, and what prompted that reading was, or those two readings, was the idea of dealing with situations where the questioner doesn't have a question, where they just want a general reading. And it may be a weakness of mine, but I tend not to feel as confident if I don't know what I'm dealing with in a reading, if I have to guess. And oftentimes I found that when people come to me and they want a reading and they don't want to tell me what the reading is about, it's because they're trying to test me and see whether or not I know what I'm doing, or whether or not the thing is going to work. And coming at a reading with that attitude, I don't think is going to be productive anyway. But I like to have some where to go. Although the Scarlett O'Hara reading I did without a question was probably one of the best non-question readings I've ever done. It's still, I prefer to have some idea of what the readings are going to be about. But sometimes people don't know, they just want a general reading. So this is a technique I wanted to share that I started using maybe about 7 years ago, and I honestly don't know where I got this idea. It's possible that I made it up, although that seems somehow impossible in reality. That there must have been someone smarter than me who had this idea that I got it from. But whatever the source of it is, and I really don't remember, it's still an interesting technique. And what the technique is to sort of create this secondary deck of cards, and I made these. I lost my original deck and I stopped using it, but I thought about it after doing the Scarlett O'Hara reading, and I made these fairly quickly. But what you have is basically index cards that are cut in half, and I trimmed the edges off to just sort of make them look a little more polished. You could get pretty intense with these if you wanted to, and do them on the computer and have them laminated and that sort of thing. But I just did this fast. And what they are is basically just a list or a series of things that could appear in a reading. And I'll just go through them quickly. Actually, I'm taking the seasons out. I have another set of cards here that that include the four suits, or the four elements and the seasons, but I don't feel like working with those today. And that's one of the things you can do. You can take things out, you can put them together. I thought it might be interesting to do a handful of decks on different subjects. So you could do everything about romance, you could do another deck on everything about finances, etc. But there are a couple ways you can work with these as I'm just going through them. And one of them is that you can, if you have your querent in front of you, you can give the deck to them and have them sort of just go through as I'm doing now and have them decide, oh, okay, well, I want this in my reading, and I know I don't want that. So that seems interesting. So they could pick what they want to include, or you can use it as inspiration as you're going through. If you don't know, if the querent isn't there and you don't know what to do, you could just sort of look through this and maybe cultivate a spread based on your little stock of concepts here. And again, I mean, this could be whatever. I like this one a lot. Subtext, it's sort of what's lying underneath the subject of the reading. We have the reading, it's about romance, but we have a subtext thing, and that says, this is what the reading is really about, or this is what really matters in life right now, or here's the thing I really am focusing on. So it could be anything. So they could pick, you could look through to get a little inspiration, or you could do what we're going to do on this video, which is to sort of use this, spread these out here, they're all pretty, hopes, devotion, etc. It's a clue. They're just things I thought of in a stream of consciousness. You could obviously put more time and effort into this and have this grow over time. But what we're going to do is sort of treat this as though it's a deck of its own. And so if the querent doesn't know what they want a reading to be about, and if you just sort of want to let chance take its turn, you could just pick them at random. I would normally shuffle these. It's hard to do when I'm holding a camera, so I'll just sort of spread them out like this. And we'll say we're going to do a 3 reading for a friend who does not have a question. They just want a general reading. They just want to sort of know what they should be thinking about right now. So we'll pick the first one, which is fear. That's something I stole from the Celtic crossbred, which I don't really use much because I don't find it very helpful, but I liked that one. Hope. Speaking of the Celtic cross. And we'll do one more. The world. So, when I put the world in there, I thought, well, this is the last card of the Major Arcana. Here's why world is really about. Now, I know that this isn't going to be a practical reading as a reader. I know that this is not going to be necessarily about jobs. This is a pretty emotional, spiritual sense. Sort of, what am I hoping for? What am I fearing? And what's my world really about? What's the center of my world? So, let me move these over. So now I'm just going to pull a card to go with each. So really what I'm doing is 3 one-card readings. And then if things sort of come out to me, I can work with the cards as I would any other reading and how they sort of live together in the spread. But I already shuffled as usual. I'm just going to cut the deck. Normally when I do readings, whether they're video readings for Rapunzel or whether it's for a friend or something like that, I pull the cards and I spend a lot of time looking at them and making notes and formulating things because being a writer, but also because most of my experience reading is doing them as written readings, I'm far more confident doing it that way. And I sound far more intelligent and learned in that. With that benefit of time and consideration, I feel a lot of pressure when I have to improvise them. But I'm going to do that now just for expediency, because this isn't really so much about the reading itself, it's more about using ways to use these cards. So we'll start here with the Fool. That's the fear. We have Hope is the Knight of Cups, and the World is the Ten of Swords reversed. Here's a really fascinating series of cards. I love the fear being the Fool, because it can be very scary. So what I would say of this reading, and starting with the fear, is that my friend here is really terrified of a sense of letting go, of control, of knowledge, of knowing what's going to come next, and really jumping in with both feet to something that may or may not work. So the real fear that this person is facing is, I mean, for a lot of folks, the Fool is one of our favorite cards. My blog is named for it, and but it can be a scary thing, and I tend to, as a reader, only look at the Fool in a negative way when it's upside down. But here, it's really speaking to what this person is afraid of, letting go and jumping into something. Now, what's interesting to me is that the Hope is the Knight of Cups. So, the Knight of Cups, on a really base level, and again, I tend to be more nuanced when I have time to think about it, but I'm saying here we're thinking about the Knight of Cups, who's one of the more romantic figures in the tarot. He's sort of, if we're going to use this sort of trite term, if there's a card in the deck that's Prince Charming, I think it's the Knight of Cups. He is sort of the knight who is the romantic hero. He's going out in search of his damsel. Knights to me are seekers. So he's going out in search of love, in search of filling his cup, filling that emotional vessel. And so we've got the fear of jumping into the unknown, and we've got the Knight of Cups who's searching for filling that emotional cup, that emotional vessel. And in a way, it's almost like wanting and fearing the same thing. Because let's say that this is a relationship-oriented reading, and I'm saying that only because the Knight of Cups is in the center. I don't know, because the person I'm reading for hasn't told me. But I want to be in a relationship. I want to go out there and find the person I'm supposed to be with. And I'm afraid of jumping into that, because any new relationship involves surrendering control completely. You are, in many ways, entirely at the mercy of the person that you're in the relationship with, because they could choose to end it, and you have no control over that. That you could wind up feeling something they don't. And so the Fool working with the Knight of Cups is interesting, because I want this. I want to go in search of love. I want to go in search of romance, but I'm really scared of jumping over the edge, which ties in really amazing with this final card, which is the World, and we've got the Ten of Swords reversed. And the Ten of Swords for me, the 9 and 10 of Swords really deal with anxiety in my mind. I know for in some cases they can be sort of physical pain. I heard someone once refer to the 10 of Swords as back pain, which makes sense. Sometimes death and that sort of thing. Again, I tend not to let that creep into my readings. I just find it sort of lugubrious. But uh, here we've got this really terrifying card. All of this fear, all of this anxiety, all of this thought, creating all of this pain. If anyone is listening to this and has panic attacks, you'll know how physical a panic attack is. And what it is the mind creating a sense of terror that creates physical symptoms. And that really seems to tie in well with our fear here. But the 10 is reversed. So our world right now, because that's what this is about being afraid but wanting love. And now our world is about having to let go of that fear, of having to let all those... I can't remember who it was, what book it was, but it was a very smart way of thinking about this, that when the card is reversed, all of the swords fall out of this person's back. And so the world right now, this person's world, is about letting go of all that terror, all that anxiety, all that crippling... And when I say crippling, it's literal. That crippling terror that comes out of fear of the unknown. This causes this upright, and now this person really has to work. Their world is about letting go so that they can go off on this journey. So there's a really quick look into that, but just a really simple way of using these sort of subject cards to create a reading. And this is sort of a fortuitous reading here, because who knew that hopes and fear would come out that way. But it's a great reading, even as inarticulate as I've been doing it, without time to prepare. Having had those three would have been a different thing. And if I had not used these, I might have come up with something similar. But I certainly wouldn't have come up with the Fool like this. Because I would have said that this is a great beginning. This is someone jumping into something, but what they're jumping away from, because we're moving, these two cards are opposing each other in terms of the images. This person is jumping away from love or romance, the seek of romance, because they've been so hurt. Again, that's just a guess, because I can't go back and unknow what I know now. But it's just an example of how the reading, these three cards would have been read completely differently had I not let these secondary sort of positional cards set the tone of the reading for me. So there's a technique that I like a lot, and I'll probably go back to using more and more. I forgot about it for a while. And only when I did the Scarlett O'Hara reading did I say, oh, I used to use these positional cards. And, I mean, they really are just a bunch of random things that I sorted. Some things that I really like, Roadblocks is good. An Enemy, I like that one. Some of them are a little less interesting. Harvest I like, What's a Time to grow, to sort of harvest that we've grown, Things to Avoid. This goes with the harvest one. It's sort of a sister card to it. But what is it time to plant? And then the harvest is what is it time to grow? We've got passions, which is a pretty simple concept. So the seasons, again, I thought I took those out of there. Beginnings, subjects. So anyway, work. A curse, I like this. But it can really be anything. So that's that. I'm in kind of a mess here, but I hope this is a technique that you find interesting and that works for you really well and helps general questions become a little clearer for you. So if you like this video, please feel free to share it or subscribe. Mostly why I'm doing these is just to have some folks to talk to this stuff about. I have sort of an isolated tarot world, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. And at any rate, good luck and have a great weekend.